Okay, you heard of these books and everything, and there's two books that I'm going to show you. I just bought them today. I actually had to go to two stores. I bought them from one store, and all three books cost me 40, literally $40. If I would have gone to the other bookstore, it would have cost me $50. Yeah, like $50 more. I think, it would cost 50, maybe $60 more. So I saved like 10, $20. So we all know Edgar Allan Poe, he's the macabre, he's the gothic and everything. I also have like a big book on his life, his biography, his stories in it. Only because my nickname back in high school was Poe. And it was kind of funny because I literally was assigned Edgar Allan Poe. It was in junior year. I was taking English and creative writing, and it just so happens that a few of my classmates were not only in my English class, but also in my creative writing class. And we were learning about American literature and their authors. And Edgar Allan Poe was one of them, along with Charles Dickinson's, Helen Keller, all of those authors. And a hat was being passed around, and the assignment was whatever name you picked, you had to write a report on that author, and therefore write a short story, a poem, whatever, in their style of writing and their themes and things like that. Ironically, I got Edgar Allan Poe, which was kind of funny. Wasn't going, oh, I hope I get him. Didn't really care. I just wanted to get the heck up out of high school and just graduate and then start pursuing my dreams in hopes that I got to them. Which I ended up buying the book and things like that. And so I wrote, I think it was a poem or something. And I ended up being told, oh my God, like the teacher was like, oh my God, it's so beautiful, blah, blah, blah. I had then did a short story for my creative writing class, which the classmate was there, and the teacher there, Mr. Flynn, I remember him. He goes, that is such a beautiful story, and the classmate blurted out and goes, well, she did a poem, things like that on Edgar Allan Poe. She should be a poet. He said, my teacher said, you should be a poet. And then the classmate says, oh no, she should be called Poe, short for poet, because she did Edgar Allan Poe and blah, blah, blah. And that's how the name was. And I eventually grew out of it because you grow out of it. You grow out of certain names. So this is the book that I bought of all his, poems and things like that. But these are the books that I had been wanting for a while. It was just when the other store, they had different covers. It was very, very subtle. But it's kind of funny. You would think with this kind of cover and things like that, with the detail, this would be more expensive than the ones that were dumbed down. Actually, it was vice versa. You would think that. So, I got Frankenstein and Dracula. I'm going to talk about Dracula. Why am I going to talk about Dracula? Because Dracula is a very difficult book to read. Bram Stoker he is the OG. Without him, we wouldn't know who Dracula was, whether it's the movies or the books, TV shows. Without this guy, we would not know who Dracula even was. I mean, even if we went back in the history to know what Dracula was, Dracula's transfer is Roman translation, roughly translated of Son of the Dragon or Son of the Devil, depending on who you ask. Basically, Dracula was a real man by the name of Vladimir Tepish, also known as Vlad the Impaler, due to his time during the Ottoman Empire when he was younger. He was taken there as a little boy. There he was trained, basically turned bloodthirsty, and therefore had his thirst for his enemies and things of that nature. To which it was the inspiration behind Dracula. Of course, this Dracula is a work of fiction. Although it was inspired by a real person, this is a work of fiction. Now, what makes this such a difficult book? Well, I'll tell you why. This story is being told by 3 different perspectives, 3 different characters. You got Mina, you got Harker. Their letters, they're misdated. It's very confusing. And also, this is a controversial book because back in the Victorian era, this was a time to be proper. And this book was rather controversial because it was gothic. It had blood. It had explicit themes and things like that. So, this is a rather difficult book to read. I mean, yeah, you got you got Mina's journal entries, you got her letters, you got journal entries from various people, like Mina. You even got Mina doing a letter to her friend Lucy, and it's kind of funny. I noticed. I don't know. Maybe you guys can help me out. So, depending on the movie, sometimes Lucy is the product of Dracula's obsession and is in love with Jonathan Harker. Other times, it's Mina who is the obsession for Dracula and the fiance of Jonathan Harker. Why is that? Because I've seen a couple words Lucy, I've seen a couple words Mina. Why is it? Can anyone let me know why that is? Because I don't know. It's in movies. I've seen it mostly in movies and shows, not in the book, because the book, it simply states Mina. Now you got Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. Now, Frankenstein is kind of difficult to read. Why? Because there's certain words that no one understands, because this was also, this was also made in the Victorian era, or maybe a little bit beforehand. Believe it or not, Mary Shelley is also the OG. Without her, we would not know of Frankenstein or Frankenstein's monster. We wouldn't see Dracula and Frankenstein go at it in the movies and stuff like that, when Universal Studios started doing monster films. She knew what she was doing, although, believe it or not, women writers were not celebrated back then. This was actually at first under the name of her husband. Before he died, he said, no, the credit goes to my wife and Mary Shelley, Actually learned that from the book. It was Shelley. It actually said Mary Shelley, and it starred Ella Fanning and Douglas Booth. It was actually a sad tale because she just wanted to be acknowledged, and, back then women married very young and, things like that. It was a different time. Kind of sad, though, because she just wanted to be celebrated. She wanted the credit because that was her writing. But because of the whole, I guess you could say the gender biasm, things like that. But that's the movie, not the book. But yeah, these books are difficult to read. Yes, they've kind of been dumbed down for the language and things like that. But it's still difficult, and at times, believe it or not, Dracula has a lot of misstates, so I don't know if that was deliberate or if that was just happened during over time with publication. Yeah, so they're entertaining. They're just difficult to read. They're like about the same difficulty as H.P. Lovecraft's stories, especially when it comes to Cthulhu, Cult of Cthulhu, or Call of Cthulhu. That's confusing. Someone I know loves those books, and even he himself said, yeah, it's kind of difficult to read because there's so many words you don't know how to pronounce. And when you look up those words, you have to look up another word. You're lucky to get through the chapter within an hour. I'm like, dang. But yeah, they're difficult reads, but they're good. They're entertaining. So what can one say?